Okay, here's a wild thought for you. What if everything we think we know about politics, about leaders, laws, and how societies change is just fundamentally wrong? Today, we're diving into a really radical argument that suggests the entire political system we live in actually contributes nothing to human progress. Let's get into it. It's a massive question, right? The kind of thing we all wonder about. What is that fundamental engine? What actually pushes humanity forward? Is it our leaders? Our laws? The big social movements we see?
You know, we're pretty much taught from day one that these are the pillars of a healthy, progressing society. But the source we're looking at today says, nope, that entire framework is a mistake. It argues that the real engine of change is hiding somewhere else entirely.
Now, to really get our heads around this argument, we have to start in a place that might seem a little strange, the animal kingdom. This perspective draws a really direct and honestly fascinating parallel between how animals behave and how our own politics work.
So think about a lion pride, for example. The alpha struggle is pretty straightforward, right? He's fighting to get mates and territory. But when you look at humans, our pursuit of dominance is way more complex. It's not about one single ruler. It needs what this viewpoint calls a whole ruling group, a system of power figures, just to keep control.
And here's the key definition we need. According to this view, the main job of these power figures, no matter what they say their ideology is to acquire resources from everybody else in society. They are, at their core, an extractive force.
So what do they want? Well, their desires are described as basically unlimited and all-encompassing. We're not just talking about money here. We're talking about influence, leaving a legacy, having others fear them, and even being worshipped. This is the stuff that fuels their endless quest to acquire society's resources.
Okay, so if power figures are primarily just taking from society, where does that leave the rest of us? Well, it leads to the source's most provocative, most shocking claim of all, what it calls the zero contribution thesis. So let's really think about this for a second. Take all of human history, from ancient empires all the way to modern democracies, what has been the total, the net benefit that all of these systems of power have actually given to humanity? That's right, zero. A clean, simple, and totally shocking number.
I mean, the claim could be more direct on this. It says power systems have contributed absolutely nothing to the genuine progress of society. Now, that's a staggering idea, so let's look at how this perspective just completely flips the conventional view on its head.
So this contrast here is the crucial point. We usually think of governments and our institutions as these positive forces for creating order and progress. But this view says, not so fast. It argues the absolute best a power system can ever do is simply cause less harm to society than a worse one would. So its contribution isn't positive, it's just reducing a negative.
Which of course brings us to the next big question. If power systems aren't the thing driving us forward, then what is? Where does real, actual, tangible progress come from? And the argument gets very specific here. It says progress isn't about laws or political ideals. No, it's measured by one thing: technological advancement in the broadest sense you can imagine. We're talking everything from farming and travel to the very way we communicate and even think. These are the things that actually, materially, improve human life. And the engine behind all of that technological advancement? It's something this source calls the human thinking function. It's our collective ability, as a species, to gain knowledge and then apply it to create real-world value. This, not politics, is where all real progress comes from. So all of this thinking builds to a pretty profound conclusion about where we should be focusing our energy. It forces us to completely rethink what things like a revolution or any kind of political change actually accomplish. See, if the system of power itself is the problem, then just changing the people in charge doesn't solve the fundamental issue at all. According to this logic, a revolution is basically just swatting out one group of resource takers for another. The underlying dynamic doesn't change one bit.
So what this is really saying is that focusing on all this external political change is not only meaningless, it can actually be dangerous. If we don't address the internal stuff, what it calls our human nature, or that thinking function, we just end up creating more conflict without ever producing any real progress.
So, after all that, where does this leave us? What's the path forward if someone genuinely wants to improve the world? Well, this viewpoint offers a very clear, even if it's a very challenging answer.
And here's the ultimate takeaway, the bottom line. Real social advancement doesn't come from changing rulers.
It comes from including our collective ability to think, to learn, and to create. It's about perfecting our human nature and our cognitive tools, not just replacing the people at the top of the pyramid. And this, of course, leaves us with a final, massive question to chew on. If the real goal is to perfect human nature, well, who gets to decide what perfect even means? It's a profound challenge right at the heart of this entire worldview, and definitely something worth thinking about. Thanks for joining this explainer.